What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bomarito Automotive Group. Bomarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership with over 20 locations, so I guarantee that there's one in your neighborhood. Since the 1970s, Bomarito has sold over 1 million cars, and John and the entire team made us feel completely comfortable when we picked up our new vehicle recently for the family. So I can't thank the Bomarito team enough for driving this episode forward, and enjoy the show. For 50 years, Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics has been proudly serving the vibrant St. Louis community. As a family-owned and operated practice since day one, the commitment to excellence and personalized care runs deep. They believe in giving back to the wonderful people of St. Louis who have entrusted them with their smiles. Step into the 5 locations across St. Louis with modern offices equipped with the latest orthodontic technology. Their 3 amazing doctors are dedicated to providing top-notch, innovative treatments tailored just for you. Join us in celebrating 50 years with Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics, where your family becomes a part of theirs. Schedule your free consultation today and let them help you achieve the confident, gorgeous smile that you deserve. Because in St. Louis, your smile is your legacy.
If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune in to the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on? They'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. We're back with another episode 137. We've been doing the show each and every week for over 2 years now, and we're excited to highlight the people, places, and events that make St. Louis special. But we couldn't do that without our incredible partners over at Bomarito Automotive Group, First Community Credit Union, Birch Tree Recovery, and Four Hands Brewing Company. Without them making this possible, we wouldn't be able to sit here and record each and every week. So I have 2 new guests in the studio today, people that we've been working with this year, and we really want to highlight people that have been doing stuff in St. Louis for a long time. You know, you guys are coming up on 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have Dave and Kara Bailey. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for making the time, because I know it's busy right now. But I wanted to first, obviously, Kara, if I can kind of come to you, is just tell us a little bit about the Bailey's Group. You know, what concepts you guys have open now, and then we can kind of get into the backstory of everything. So
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on 20 years that
Sheesh.
we opened. I know Bailey's Chocolate Bar in Lafayette Square. We have Rooster. We have 2 locations, one on South Grand and one downtown.
Yeah.
Getting ready to open our 3rd Rooster location in Clayton very soon.
Mm-hmm.
We have Small Batch in Midtown, Bridge Tap House and Wine Bar downtown. What am I missing? Our event spaces. We have Willow and Slate downtown as well.
Mm-hmm. And Bailey's Range
Bailey's
over
Range on
in
Shaw. Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot of restaurants.
It is.
So I want to, Dave, I'll pass it to you, but I want to hear about the first, because, you know, reading back on you guys had met, kind of your love story, and then also you opened Bailey's Chocolate Bar at the same time. So first, what made you fall in love with hospitality? Was it always something about it, or was it just the space that you were in? Can you kind of go into those moments 20 years ago when you were opening?
So I'd been in hospitality for, I don't know how many years, at least 10 years before that. And it something I more or less fell into, you know, first job as a busser and then delivering pizzas and then, you know, waiting tables and bartending. And it was something that I, you know, started to take more and more seriously, you know, more than it just being, you know, a job to have or a, you know, a part-time job in college and whatever else. And I started to, you know, work in different types of places. So I'd be working in a really, really small restaurant, you know, French bistro, or doing, you know, hotel banquet catering and bartending and, you know, for 300 people and stuff like that. So trying to get different experiences. And I had some really, really awesome bosses and some really, really awesome work environments, and then some really toxic ones as well. And, you know, this is back in the mid and late 90s especially, and, you know, it's sort of a thankfully much different scene now. But, you know, my personal thing was like, if I'm going to stick with this, like, in a certain amount of time, I'm going to have to be able to, like, shape the environment myself, and make sure that it's healthy, diverse, welcoming to not just the guests but also the employees, and make it something that is, prosperous for everybody in the room, and not just sort of this like daily grind. And I'd seen some of that. Like I'd had some really good bosses that were really good at developing and teaching people that wanted to learn, hey, you want to be a manager? Here's the steps. Da, da, da. And so I was like, I either need to do that or I need to get out and figure out a different life path. So I set a goal to have a restaurant open by 30. And then Kara and I met a couple years later, after I had kind of set that mental goal and was, I was
Working towards it. Yeah.
working like crazy on purpose, working, 85 to 90 hours a week,
Oh, wow.
3-4 jobs at a time, so that I'd never had a shift off, kind of thing. I was like training for the Olympics was like the way that I was imagining it. But
That's good training.
it was, yeah.
So you were working at 4 like different type of concepts, like hospitality businesses?
Yeah, there was a point where I was managing 2 different restaurants and then still doing the banquet catering, and then I would pick up here or there like as
So
needed.
7 days a week.
Oh yeah, always 7 days a week.
Sheesh. To save up, like you had a goal in mind of like, I need this much capital.
No, it didn't have anything to do with that. Because it didn't really matter how much I worked. I could save a little bit, but it was never going to be enough to actually open a shop.
Exactly.
But I wanted the mental and physical fortitude to be able to like say, okay, 7 days a week, at least 2 shifts a day, late nights, lunchtime, whatever, wouldn't be that big of a deal. And to make sure I wasn't going to be like, open a restaurant and then I burn out.
Exactly.
I didn't want that. So that's kind of where my head was at. And but then Karen and I met. I was still working a ton, and we would go when we had time off. We would go to 33. And Jake Hafner, who has Civil Life Brewery now, was the original owner, and was the owner at the time. He's like, "Hey Dave, you wanted to open a restaurant, right?" And I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. So the space next door is open." I'm like, awesome. So like having an invitation from somebody that I really respected and had a lot of knowledge in the industry, and his background is amazing. To like be willing to be my neighbor was awesome. So then it was like, okay, well, what are we going to put into that space? Because at the time my head was kind of still leaning towards the first one being a vegetarian restaurant, and that was going to be at least, the first 5-10 years. But we weren't sure, Karen and I talked about it a lot, and we weren't sure if that was the right move 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If it was today, totally different thing, and I probably would have proceeded with that. But we looked at the space, and it's like, well, hey, it used to be, desserts and coffee. I wanted full service. I came from a full service, more fine dining background, things like that. And we had awesome restaurants right there in the neighborhood.
I was gonna say we spent a lot of time in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
it seemed like. Yeah,
And this is the
dessert
Lafayette Square
concept,
neighborhood that you guys are currently still at to this day.
Yeah. That dessert concept.
And
it's supported there.
Yeah, 1111 was open, Squires was open. There's there's a whole bunch of restaurants all right there, and we're like, oh, well, we can be the before and after spot. So you come and get a martini, and then you go have dinner. You go have dinner, and you come and have dessert, or an after dinner drink, and make it a date spot. So we kind of started to just craft the design of the concept around that, and around like, okay, well, what can we do that's going to bolster everybody else in the neighborhood and make us like a cool little part of it?
No, that's awesome. So how, obviously the name, but like, how did you land on just Bailey's Chocolate Bar? I mean, was that a hard discussion, or was that, because a lot of times with restaurants, you don't see many restaurants with people's name as the restaurant. I mean, your name is a little bit easier to like say. It sounds like a Bailey's because of the alcohol brand and like all those different things. But like, was there other names that you guys were considering? I mean, you guys were just together for a year. So actually, let's backtrack real quick. I want to hear about your guys' love story, because you just said you were working 7 days a week, 85 hours a week. I know from relationships that it's hard to build a relationship when you work that much. So I want to hear from Kara, like how did that develop? So you guys met. Did you meet him while he was at work?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. There you go. So if you weren't working every day, you guys might have never met.
That's right. No, it's actually a funny story. We were at the time I was going to school. I was getting my undergrad, actually getting ready. I think I was student teaching or about to student teach. And I was nannying for a couple families at the time. And
Also multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Right, also working multiple jobs. I was nannying and had started working in the hospitality as well, industry. But got a phone call from 2 people, friends now, and friends then, friends now that I was nannying for, that to join them for a drink at Sasha's. Sasha's on Demun had recently opened, and Dave was managing, and so I met them for a drink. And by the end of the night, everybody thought it would be a good idea if I left my number for him.
While he was serving you guys.
So I obliged and said okay, and then kind of the rest of it's history.
Leading up to that call, so there were 4 people at the table, and I recognized Emily and Kara, the 2 that where she was nannying for. And because I had waited on them multiple times at other restaurants that I worked at also. So just kind of like we'd seen each other, and so we had a good rapport at the table. And, I walked up and, got them a fresh round. They're like, "Hey, are you single?" I'm like, "Hold on. You're like in your 30s. Like we're in, because of course I'm, 20.
A young 24.
Yeah, 25 or
And
something.
the women,
like that,
the people that were there, they were like, "Hey, are you single?" You're like, "No."
Yeah. And they're like, "You need to meet our nanny. She's super cute.
You're like,
You're
"Okay, that
absolutely
sounds
gonna know." It's like, okay, that's great. I was also like, I think there was only one other person working that night. We were packed.
You were running circles around.
I
the whole
was,
place,
I was trying to do everything, and but Kara showed up, and I was like, "Oh, well, she is really cute. That is awesome." And I was like in my last pair of clothes, like hadn't done laundry and all that other stuff, but
Yeah, I know.
got her a glass of wine and eventually got her number, so that worked.
Yeah, it all worked out, and some of the kiddos that I nannied for, those women, they were actually in our wedding, so it was pretty fun.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because they're probably, they're how old now?
They're in college now.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is crazy, I know.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was going to say, like, obviously that's different. So, like, when my wife and I met, we were 21, which was 7 years ago. So, like, we already had each other all over social media. It was just, like, it's just different.
It's different, yeah.
Like, leaving a number at the bar, although that's a classy move. I don't know if that happens often, but I also don't work at the bar, so I don't know how often. Maybe we need to bring some of your guys' bartenders on the show and talk to them about it. But it's just a different time. It's like how you meet people. So you guys met then. How quickly did you guys start dating? How quickly did you? So you left your number?
I left my number.
How quickly did you call? You waited a little bit.
I think it was the next day.
Oh,
I think it was a day. I think it was a day or
after.
two. He left me a voicemail.
more
a
than
voicemail? Hell no.
Which I know isn't, but that's what you did back then.
Yes.
I wasn't gonna answer it if I didn't know.
Oh no, you're like random number. This is probably him.
Yeah. So I'd listened to it a few times.
Yeah.
Thought he sounded pretty normal.
What was your guys' first date?
It was
pretty
a
epic.
long, epic date. Yeah. We started. Well, interesting enough, we started out in. He asked me if we wanted to go to what was just chocolate bar at the time. For coffee or hot chocolate, I think he said, or was Arcelia's, right?
Yeah, that's
the Mexican restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah, in Lafayette Square, where
I was like hot chocolate or margarita because I wanted to
opted for margaritas. So we started there, and then we went to dinner. I'm blanking on the name.
It's not there anymore. It's catty corner from where Grace is right now. It's a bank now, but it was a fine dining restaurant in the Grove.
Yeah,
that was nice. And then we went over to the Loop to Blueberry Hill.
Wow, you guys went all over.
Yeah, and then
we
continued.
Blueberry Hill closed, so then we had to go to the Rocket Bar.
Oh wow,
because we needed a 3 a.m. bar. We closed that one down.
I don't even know what the Rocket Bar is. Yeah,
you're so young.
It was like
we missed the Rocket Bar.
Yeah,
I know. I do miss the Rocket Bar.
So wow, you guys went to like 4 spots all over town too. You were in Lafayette Square, then you're in the Grove, then you went all the way to the Loop, and then wherever Rocket Bar is.
It's downtown West. It's like right by where the stadium is now.
Really? Is there anything there now or no?
It's like a block from Schlafly.
Oh, okay.
Is where it used to be.
Nice. Open till
and it
3
was an
a.m.
awesome like that late at night especially. It was an industry hangout.
Nice.
It was always packed.
Always packed. So. They had good live music, and you could always run into somebody that you knew from a restaurant or a bar.
Yeah, because
somewhere over there.
Of course, it's like the only place people can go. So there's a few of those now. But so you guys quickly, obviously, got close, started dating. So then a year later, that's when Chocolate Bar opened.
Just over a year.
Much, yeah.
Okay, so during that process, you were obviously bouncing ideas off of each other, and then you're like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And then when did you guys get married then?
Not until 2007.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were a few restaurants.
Yeah.
Before
Before you could get a Saturday off.
Pretty much.
Before
Yeah.
did you're like, maybe we might as well just get a venue so that we can get married inside the venue. So wow. So you guys pretty much, your relationship grew through building these restaurants together. So you worked there.
Definitely.
You obviously worked there a lot. And so just walk me through. I know I started talking about the name. So how did you come up on the name? And then also, how was it the first like couple months opening? I mean, how difficult was that to get the word out? You know, like, I mean, you obviously had good neighbors, you were in a good neighborhood, but there was a lot of challenges with probably a new restaurant, you know? So if you guys can touch on that.
Yeah. So just to answer the name real quick, it was already the chocolate bar, and we knew that we were going back in, and like
Yeah.
we were changing it from coffee shop style to martini bar style. But you know, we talked to a few people, and we worked with Toki Branding and Design to do the first, I don't know, several of our names and logos and designs and all that other stuff. So that was what they suggested, was to like, no, just like go for it, put your name in front of it. And my plan, honestly, like that was going to be the only restaurant that we were running. It was not an intention to be like a jumping off point.
You originally thought you were just like, I'll just do this one restaurant
for at least, or if I was going to do another one, it wouldn't be for at least 5 years or something, you know, because I knew that I would have to be hands-on and be there all the time and stuff like that. But so once we opened, there were definitely challenges. I mean, opening was a challenge.
Yeah, it had been sitting for
a
minute, just kind of
the
like doors locked and people walked out.
It's a little
so
dusty
it was
in there.
scary inside.
there might have been a few mushrooms growing up out of the floor,
Of course,
and things like that will save you some of the
of
the
what else
details,
was in
but,
there. Yeah.
But getting that whole thing put together, and especially with the budget that we had, which was tiny, and we were really grateful for it. But you know, we had a carpenter, and that was about it. So you know, I'm there in the middle of the night painting the ceiling, you know, and I'm you know, slept on the bar top more than once because it was the only like elevated surface I could find where I could like lay down. You know,
we like really leaned in on, you know, family and friends, and super grateful for them. We had my mom and my aunt were downstairs in the restrooms, mosaicing,
Doing tile.
doing tile.
I mean, you have to, and like you said, you had a budget. You're like, okay, well, we can't afford a general contractor. It's you know, it's just a lot different than like a project now that you're doing at Clayton.
Right.
You know,
No,
it's just
I mean,
a
we're
whole
in there.
different project.
Right.
Which I'm sure you're still there every day, but now you're like, okay, now we can actually get the things that we want to get done the first time instead of like slowly doing it over years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
So you guys purchased that building then? No.
But you know, we did all the work on it, you know, and so we got all the upkeep, you know, up to snuff, and learned a lot along the way, of course, as far as like how to fix things and make them sturdy and all that good stuff. But then you know, and I was still working. Kara was still working this whole time that we were doing it. I don't think I stopped working until like September, like right before. And you know, then we started to get crew in there a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks ahead of time. And it's the first time I'd ever built my own menu as well. So we had to develop all those recipes and test everything, you know, get all the liqueurs in there and all the martini recipes and hot chocolate recipes and you know, everything. And then, but once we had staff in there, people started coming, and you know, it was within 3 months or so we really felt like we were kind of hitting our groove. It wasn't one of those ones where we were blowing the door off immediately, which is fine because we were, you know, we were learning. But then once we hit our stride, it felt great. And we started to have people coming in saying like, so what's next? Like, nothing. Come on. But then I got a call about this very small spot. We can talk about that later.
So obviously it's like a huge accomplishment running your own restaurant. Like you said, you worked hard before, so it wasn't like anything different, but there's a certain feeling that you get when it's your own, whether it's like how the customer feels, because it's and your last name's on it, so it's a representation of your own self and your own family in that. So I mean, I think that that was 2004.
Right.
Almost 20 years exactly to this month when this episode's
Right.
coming out. Exactly. So now you've been open 20 years. You guys have had all these concepts in St. Louis. What is it really about St. Louis? I mean, I'm sure you guys have gotten opportunities. I mean, you're doing your first one in St. Louis County, but I'm sure you've had all these opportunities to go all over the metro area. What made you really decide to plant your flag in St. Louis? Was it just something about the city, or was it just happened like that?
You were the starter.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we both were born and raised, in St. Louis. I know I went to, we both went to college, here. Never really left St. Louis. Both just loved the city. I wasn't at the time when we met. You were living in St. Louis City. I was in the county. And growing up, I grew up in Normandy for a little bit and then Clayton. Like I didn't spend a lot of time in the city. And so really it wasn't until after high school and meeting Dave, that's when I really got to explore like the city and like downtown and all of like the
And
cool
Rocket Bar.
pockets and
No, I'm
Rocket Bar. No,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Shout out Rocket
no,
Bar.
I know.
Like, they don't have this in Clayton.
Yeah, and just like you just can't beat the architecture, the history, and a lot of these neighborhoods.
You guys have taken on a lot of historic projects. I mean, speaking of Bailey's Range, the new one, I mean, that one's incredible to see what it looked like before.
Yeah.
Actually, every one of our restaurants, except the one we're going to be opening in Clayton, is in a historic rehab.
Really? So they're all the historic tax
Gone
credits.
through historic tax credits, whether we did or the building owner did that. All those buildings were saved through that program. So we hear that a lot from people that come and visit in St. Louis, that they're like, man, this architecture is really, really cool. And, like, looks like it's been here a long time. We're like, yeah, we didn't tear everything down, thank goodness.
Right.
But no, I think that's also part of what it was more organic than sort of this like very specific plan to stay completely in the city of St. Louis. Because once we had Chocolate Bar and then we opened up Rooster downtown, and that was just a little spot. And they're like, well, what about this spot that's a block away? And that's where Bridge opened. And then it's like, well, what about the we need to expand a little bit more, and we need a commissary space. And there's this other space a block away from there, and that became Bailey's Range. So it was just every couple of years we're opening something new and different, but that way we were able to keep our arms around it because everything was pretty close by.
Yeah, and it was easy to make that drive around. And then also, like, as you guys grow, like, these commercial real estate people are always like, hey, I know they'll check this place out, like they know the people that I'm sure you still get the calls every day.
We get the calls.
Every time something comes up, you're like, I'll go look at it, and if you feel something, like, is there something, so when you went to the Rooster, so Rooster, this original one was your second. So when you went to that space, I mean, what did you instantly know what you wanted to do, or was it just like, I know we want to do breakfast?
So Rooster originally was, Kara and I had traveled a little bit, and we'd been, we'd had some French food and, background, but really crepes kind of got like stuck in my mind. And we were talking about, hey, a creperie would be really fun. It could dovetail off Chocolate Bar in some way or another. And it was just kind of this thing we were kicking around. But then there was also the idea of, well, Chocolate Bar's open at night and a breakfast and lunch spot would be open during the day. So if something goes terribly wrong, I can always be at the spot, whether it's, the hours wouldn't overlap, which sounded great in theory at the time. And then, then once I started doing it, it's like, holy moly.
Yeah, 16-hour days.
Oh, more. Yeah. I mean, I would have to start doing prep at Rooster at, by 5. And a lot of times I wouldn't get home from Chocolate Bar till after 1. Thankfully that we started to have really good staff at both places, so that like that got curbed within a year or so. But it was definitely some long, long days for a while there. And then when we first went into the space, it had been a deli for a long, long time, but it was just a tiny, tiny little spot. And we just made it, well, when I say we, Kara, her mom, her aunt, her sister, like, made it really beautiful. Her brother. And, they did all that aesthetic work to make the space just, like, super vibrant and fun. it actually, before it was a deli, was a men's barber shop. So it had this like long mirror wall that was really pretty that worked.
Again, like going into some of these spaces downtown, I mean, it's great jumping, points because, you have like this cool, vintage tile and, mirrors and just
unique
the
windows,
decorative,
light, like the lighting, and you have to play off because especially with the historic ones, is you can't do certain things.
Right.
Even if you wanted to.
Being able to preserve that.
But we did get to like we get to go into a building and say, okay, well, what does this building really want to be? Like, and then with Bridge, it was a box. It was literally a drywall box. There wasn't even a staircase to get up to the mezzanine when we went in there. So that one we got to design whole cloth and just say like, oh, okay, we know what overall concept we're going for. And
Bridge is beautiful. I mean, it is like
that's all credit to Kara.
That the bar is like unbelievable. I mean, just how tall it is, and then the mezzanine. But Bridge has like a unique story though about that name, and I'm sure all your restaurants do. But with Bridge, can you touch on that, Dave, about like kind of the story behind that name and that? Because like some people just think, oh, it's Bridge, like the river. Like that's what I thought for the longest time.
Yeah, so my brother Tom struggled with addiction for the majority of his adult life, and he unfortunately overdosed about 4 weeks before Rooster downtown opened. So that was rough to say the least. And once that happened, I always had it in my mind that if I ever opened another restaurant, I would want to honor him in some way, with that. But Tom's Bar and Grill was already taken, and it's like, like what can we do that's like that honors him but isn't so just like on the nose. And so he was a virtuoso violin player. He played in orchestras and bands, and we played together in orchestras, and it was a huge part of his life. And so we started to look at the violin, and then I realized, oh, the bridge of the violin, that little wooden piece that holds the strings, that's what carries the life energy of the player into the instrument itself. It's like, oh, okay, like let's start working with that. And Kara's sister knew a photographer who did some really amazing photographs of pieces of a violin or of the actual bridge. We tied in the concept of strings kind of throughout the space and all those like nice wood tones. So once you walk into it, it's supposed to be a little bit subtle, but it's all there because of the violin and honoring Tom.
That's so cool that you get to do that, and then now you get to walk in there still and like just think of him every time that you're like in the space. That's amazing. So obviously you guys have had all these like interesting aha moments, but we're partnered up with Birch Tree Recovery, and I like to talk to business owners on mental health and how they all tie into whether it's running a business, whether it's losing a sibling, whether it's family having a family or anything like that, and like how you guys balance being mentally sharp, but also knowing that you guys have hundreds of employees. You always have something on your to-do list. I mean, that's one thing I'm realizing is like you're never done with the to-do list. There's all these things going on. So is there anything that you guys did in that journey of like how to balance like both mental health, but also being on top of your stuff when it comes to work?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a journey. I mean, as we talked about when we were, younger and opening up, it was easier in a sense to, work those crazy long shifts, and but the reality is life, right? And you can't do that forever. And it's also, as business owners, like as easy as it would be in a sense, or sometimes like think it's better, be able to be there, all the time. It's not, and it's beneficial for us and employees, to be able to have that space, that work-life balance. And I think for us, it was, we had opened a few restaurants, and it was really, starting a family ourselves. Range opened. We had, our daughter, and it was kind of like that. We can't do this forever, and it needs to change, and it's going to change real quick here. So I think that was kind of, our moment. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we're constantly having to check ourselves, with, and we want to make sure that not just ourselves, but, providing our employees with those same opportunities of that kind of work-life balance. Because at the end of the day, everybody's sharper, when they can have that, me time and time to themselves to recharge.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough. I think that and you guys know, I mean, you guys have managed so hundreds of employees, probably thousands over the years, but
Right.
when you were at Bailey's Chocolate Bar in 2004, I mean, you probably couldn't imagine you'd be, on a podcast talking about all these other restaurants, 180 current employees.
What's a podcast?
What's a podcast? Yeah, you guys were sending voice memos or voicemails.
Voicemail.
Voice memos I do now still. But yeah, you guys were leaving voicemails. I'm sure your kids would flame you for that. And
Right.
like, don't leave me a voicemail, Mom.
For sure.
So, but no, it's like it's crazy, and like these aha moments that people get, and it's really just a testament of being consistent. And it's you don't have to be the best at making the food or the best at pouring a drink. It's just about showing up and giving a consistent service every day. Now that's still hard though. There's still
Right.
days, and now with the way information travels, like you can hear when people have a bad time right away. And it's like that's another thing you have to battle with is you guys will be on vacation going to see Taylor Swift or something out of the country somewhere, and you get an email and it'll like throw you off because there's like, oh man, like you look at your phone and then you immediately get like anxious.
Yeah.
That's how I get.
Yeah.
Like
no, for
anytime
sure.
something's wrong, I'm like, instead of just like I would check it on Monday, I'm like, no, now I'm like freaking out. I need to figure out, I need to reply to this. So I think it's harder nowadays to disconnect, and especially you guys work together. I know you guys are working on different things, but it's like when you're outside of work, do you guys have like any tips on how to not talk about it, or is it just always like, I mean, right now you're opening up a new restaurant, so like when you're eating dinner or when you're like walking after dinner or whatever, doing whatever you guys do, it's like you're probably like talking about what happened that day, I would assume. But
no, I mean it's a constant battle to try to separate the two things, your home life and work life. And I think, I mean, it's not perfect, because there is stuff that's constantly coming up. But I mean, we definitely try to, like in the evenings when we're home, I mean, the kids help, because they're distracting and can't talk about anything else. Right.
And we need to talk about them and what's going on in their lives.
Yeah. But yeah, we try and turn it off as much as we can. But reality is
so
there is a lot of
the new
late night
Rooster is opening probably right about the time as this podcast. So this is in Clayton, obviously, huge location, obviously, I mean, your other one's big too, but like a lot of your stuff now is just huge now. It's crazy. Like all the restaurants you're doing, but you're doing this in Clayton. So what made you guys think that this is a good idea? Is there certain things that you guys do before you do something? Like obviously write notes, do market cap, whatever, like look at how many people live there, how many people work there. But besides that, like, is there like, what does that creative process look like when it comes to opening up a new spot like that? Especially with the investment you have to make to get that space to be alive.
I mean, I think it's the same as it has been. At least the main point of it is, do we love the space and do we think it's the right space for the particular concept? Like I remember when I looked at the space for small batches, I called Kara up and I was like, hey, this is what it looks like and this is where it is. And Kara was like, so is that where the vegetarian restaurant goes? And I was like, exactly.
Because you guys already knew that. You were aligned on that.
Yeah, and on like that eventually we would want that restaurant to come to life. So and we've been on the same page about wanting to open additional Rooster locations, and so we've talked about the different neighborhoods that we wanted to. And then this, as far as anywhere that we could have gone in Clayton, this is the right spot as far as we think.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the heart of, downtown Clayton, but then surrounding downtown Clayton, you've got all these, great neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We're right on the U City border. So like we're actually like way closer to a lot of residential density than we are even to
you're in that beautiful
towers
little like wrap around there. You have a beautiful hotel there, and then you have
Right.
the coffee shop everybody hangs out. Like there's a lot of action going on there too. And the space is beautiful too. And just from the pictures, I know that it's probably a lot different than the last time we came by. But yeah, I feel like it's more. Obviously, there's numbers that go into it, but it's also like a feeling like, could we create a space here? And then you guys know your business model. You already have 2 other ones, and you're like, can we make that work? And then let's make it work. So that's opening. Are you guys gonna stop opening stuff after that, or what?
No, we've got a couple other things planned.
Yeah.
Cool
Stay
stuff.
tuned.
Yeah, to stay tuned for.
Yeah. Same things or just different, or just
We're gonna keep you guessing.
we're gonna keep you guessing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard not to like talk about it because like you want to like speak it into existence. But I mean, you guys have also had places over the years that didn't work too. So you're like,
Right.
you have things that open, things that close, and there's seasons when it comes to stuff. But then you get a concept like Rooster where it's like, okay, this is really working. Let's
Run
do
with
it more.
Right.
So what does that feel like? I mean, how hard is that to like have to actually close something, especially when you're so close to that, and you have to move on? I mean, I know every time is probably different, but
Yeah,
It's never easy. I mean, that's
or
for
fun.
sure. I mean,
yeah,
no, we think about everything that went into it, you
Yeah.
know, and the people that have worked hard and
and there
but
have been different reasons, and then other ones
Yeah.
where we've just reconcepted,
Mhm.
in the same space, like over on Park. But no, it's not fun. But like when you look at a space like Clayton that we're going into, and we already know, like people know what Rooster is, and there isn't a Rooster in that neighborhood, so we feel like that's going to be something that's really going to stick. So it gives you that like little more confidence going into it.
Yeah, and like the people that are probably like coming to Rooster are driving to South Grand or driving downtown or that, and now being in a more residential one. I mean, your guys' the one on South Grand is like so nice. I mean, it's so big and it's beautiful. And your guys' commissary is in the basement there now, or back there.
right,
Yeah,
in the main level in the basement,
yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, it's fun. I think that's like the part of where you guys are in is like, yes, like getting something open, but then I'm sure if you're anything like most of the people we have on the podcast is like you kind of like keep want to create like another space. Like you just get inspired and then you're like, okay, what's next? So I want to talk a little bit about St. Louis. This is the STL Bucket List show. So we highlight all the places, obviously all your guys' places, all the places around town. What are some of your guys' bucket list spots that when you do get let's do it this way first. So when you get a day off with no kids, where's what is that? What is that? So first let's do a date night spot,
Okay.
and then we'll do family spots that you guys like to go to. So if you did have a babysitter or your parents or whoever, your sister, whoever's watching the kids that night, and you guys are like, I have 5 hours to go do what I want, what's a date night spot that like always hits for you guys?
I mean, I'd probably say we live kind of near the Demun neighborhood, and so I'd say our go-to, and because we're really bad at planning, so a lot of times our date nights are this kind of last minute thing. Is trying to like sneak in, either early or late night into Louis. Just always so good,
spot.
consistent. Yeah.
I've been trying to
Great
I've been
space.
talking to him about coming on. He's been busy because he's doing something else. But I've been hitting him on the pod. That is a good spot.
It's
That's a
just
lot
so
of
good.
people that are on the podcast. That is their favorite spot too.
Yeah.
So that's when it's other restaurant owners' favorite spots. That's how you know it's a great spot.
So it's good. So we can walk there. I mean, when we can, we'll try and see, shows around town. I feel like that's when we can.
Sounds like you guys need one. I need to get you a
I
gift
think
card there.
so.
I'll get you a gift card there. I'll get you a gift card
Can
there.
you get us a babysitter too?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Got you.
But I mean, honestly, we were chatting a little bit. A lot of we try and utilize the kids being in school like during the week too to grab lunch. That's kind of.
But lunch is not as easy to get anywhere either because every time I want to go get lunch, they're closed.
I know. You're limited,
Yeah.
but there are some really great
There's some
lunch
really great
spots.
lunch
Yeah.
around,
What's some lunch spots?
What do we'll do.
We go to Mission a lot.
Yeah.
That's a great one for the kids. I mean, the kids love Mission. As
We'll
well.
get takeout from Mission for dinner at the house a lot too.
Mission Taco.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Mission
Well, now they're
Taco.
Session Taco.
Session Taco.
Yeah.
Same thing.
But no, we'll do. Songbird is great.
Yeah, that's a
one to
really good
grab
spot.
during the week.
Mhm.
Lona's. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
Lona's is a good spot.
We always love a quick sandwich from Gramophone.
Mm-hmm.
Adriana's on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good spot. So, what are your kids'
Good
favorite
sandwich.
spots then?
I mean,
Is Mission probably?
Mission's-
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 'cause we've got
Your
three
rotation.
kids, different
Do you
tastes,
go
but
to
there's
multiple
something.
spots?
No, I mean
Okay,
the
you don't do
Foundry
that.
though will sometimes
Okay,
we'll
I was
go
gonna say.
to
So
that
I
we
don't
can
know. Me
hit.
and my wife are talking because her mom, who has passed, was always go to 3 different spots. They had 7 kids in their family, so that she would go to
that
7
sounds tough.
if they wanted to. She was the best mom ever, and I'm like, I will never like when I was at her house when we were 20. They're like, what do you want, Luke? And I'm like, oh, whatever Marissa's getting is fine. Like, I don't want to be an inconvenience. She's like, oh, no, I'll go wherever you want.
I'm used to it. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like, okay, I want this. And then, like, they would go to, like, 7 different spots.
Wow.
And it was out in St. Peter's. They'd be like, we'll be at Culver's. And these are all the fast food restaurants. And she'd bring 7 bags back. I'm like, I will never do that. I don't care.
No, I don't think we're willing. We don't have the time for that.
We
but-
have been known to go to Nudo and Mission on the same
same run?
pickup.
Yeah.
That's a
same
good run.
Or
Nudo's
Nudo
right
and
here across in Creve
K-Bop
Court. I go to
across,
this
yeah.
one
Mm.
on the way home from the pod. That or Miley are like my go-to. I probably get that like 3 times a month.
Yeah.
The best.
Nudo's great.
Yeah.
So those are the kids. So the kids are eating. They're a little adventurous. Then they'll eat some.
They
things.
are. Yeah. I mean, we've got
yeah.
a vegetarian. We've got, you know,
Mhm.
one that's kind of picky, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
And you gotta go to Damn Fine Hand Pies.
Yes.
Yeah, I just found out that was your brother over there. We
Yep.
just went there and saw them. We did a viral video. They've been like thanking us. They said it went awesome. I mean, they don't need any help from us, but they've been
No,
killing
they're doing
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
It's
no,
nuts. Yeah, that
kids love their.
I haven't been there
their
yet.
Donuts.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's good.
that's amazing. So I want to ask some advice for younger business owners. So, is there anything that you would do, so how old were you when you guys, were you guys the same, are you guys the same age?
A couple years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were in your 20s when you started your first.
26.
26. So, is there any advice you would give? I mean, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that listen to our show all the time, and they're always looking for, advice. Is there anything that you could tell somebody in your shoes 20 years ago to either not do it or just to, or is there any advice that you would give to your younger self that you wish you would have known?
That's a good question.
I mean, just don't be surprised when unexpected things come at you,
Yeah.
It's like, you can plan and plan and plan. And I mean, I had a lot of hospitality experience. I had managed a lot of people. I had worked in a lot of different styles of places, but then at the end of the day, when it's all on you, like stuff just happens, and you have to figure it out and not lose
Does
your
it get
head.
easier though as stuff happens? Because I feel like stuff happens, but like eventually you kind of get armor because you know it.
I mean, yes and no. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's still very personal,
Yeah.
and it's,
Yeah, I'm not going to say things don't bother me, but I try constantly to make sure that I'm keeping a cool head. And people say that I'm, like, why are you so calm? Why aren't you losing your mind? I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, let's just still have fun with this. Like that broke, this broke, that person didn't show up, whatever. It happens. So we just gotta roll with it and keep growing and developing. And at the end of the day, I mean, what we do anyway is like 100% about people, right? Whether that's our customers or our staff, like that is all it is. Like we can build these really pretty spots, but at the end of the day, it's all about people, or there's no actual life in the building, right?
right.
So just focusing on that as a positive thing has sort of been my what keeps me sane.
Yeah. And just knowing that, I mean, the journey itself is far from perfect, but the good, we always say it's like a roller coaster, it's like
I like
when,
that
when
point.
things are great, they're great and super rewarding. And when things are hard, they're really hard.
But they get better,
They
too.
do. Yeah. They do.
And you guys have been through, I mean, we went through one of the craziest times ever, obviously, and we got through that, and we're starting to get through that. But I like that you said the people thing. The people part is because, like, yes, you have hundreds of people that work with you, but then the thousands of people every week that you guys serve too. So it's like every day you have to make thousands of people happy, or hundreds of people happy. And it's like, how can we balance that? But I think you guys do a great job of your staff. Your staff is amazing. And I know that's hard. I know that's an ongoing challenge to keep your staff going. But I think it comes back to why you started, is like offering a diverse space that makes people feel good and makes them feel like they want to be there. And that's the start. And then if you can start there, you're starting in a good spot. So it's like, how can we make that better? And I know that stuff, I mean, I only have 6 people, and it's hard too. I mean, every business is people, no matter what AI or computers
Absolutely.
or anything that we use or systems, like you can't replace an experience. And that's why we go to places like Louis and all these different places, because you get a people experience there and it makes you feel good. And that's all we want, is it's a value exchange. When I give $100 to go to Rooster for brunch, I want to feel great when I leave, and we do. And you got mimosas and all these different things that make you feel good, but it's also the people that you saw there that day. So no, I think that's incredible. And obviously you guys got other stuff coming up. Bailey's Chocolate Bar 20-year anniversary party. That's going to be fun.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. I know Mary was telling me that we're going to be doing a little coat drive with you guys. So STL Bucket List coat drive.
Yep. Down at Bailey's Range.
Yep. So it's getting colder. And then fall menus, obviously, new Rooster, all these different things going. Is there anything else like going on during the holidays that people should be aware of?
Holidays, I'm trying to think.
I mean, it's always a great place, Rooster Range, like you've got family in town or you just need to get away from your family that's in town. Just
Small Batch is great.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite place to
That's
go.
great
Winter,
drinks.
just nice warm.
And you guys have all
whiskey.
these event
Warm and
venues.
cozy.
So for companies that want to host, events, and then also just people to get married in general.
Yeah, no, we're definitely booking, holiday parties, now at not only our restaurants, but some of the event spaces, and then weddings, of course,
And we
Love
can do
weddings.
offsite in people's spaces or homes as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, Rooster is a great spot to have an evening party
Okay.
because they're all really pretty.
Yeah.
Like not just during the day, they're really pretty when the lights are down lower, and we can serve cool menus or do breakfast for dinner. And,
Okay.
Yeah. So like.
Yeah, that's cool.
Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you guys for making the time to
No,
come on the
thanks for
show
having
today.
us on.
I know some of those questions weren't on the list, but we kind of just get rolling and get
All
to
good.
talking. But super excited for the new Rooster. When this episode goes out, we're going to send an email out to our listeners with like all the details for that. So hopefully we can
Awesome.
get going for that. And then, congratulations on all your guys' success.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
keep up the good work. And we're going to have some martinis now.
martini?
Yeah, I'm going to have a martini now. So Matt, zoom in on their camera. We're going to make a martini real quick.
We got the very
Brought
dark.
the very dark martini.
Yeah, I love So you guys were doing espresso martinis before espresso martinis were cool. Maybe not. I don't
I
know.
always
Now they're
thought
like
they were
crazy.
cool.
Now they're like insane how cool they are. Everybody wants one.
Yeah, we've been making espresso martinis at Chocolate Bar for 20 years for sure.
Yeah.
Don't want to get martini.
And
all
ice
over the
cream
studio.
martinis too. Yeah.
We
that?
still do, yeah.
Yeah, ice cream martini.
Our
Oh, ice cream
signature
martinis,
martini
yeah.
is an ice cream martini
Yeah.
as well.
On the menu 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys gonna bring back some specials?
I think we are. We're
I
gonna
know we talked about it.
do some throwback martinis, some specials, and
Mm. All right, cheers.
All right. Cheers to 20
Yeah.
years. Thank you.
Today they rep St. Louis, yeah. They rep St. Louis. They rep St. Louis.